Well, here's a question for you. Would you move to a new city if you were paid to do so? Appleton is now offering to pay people from outside of the state to move downtown and help strengthen the workforce. But they are looking for particular recruits. Taylor Zebel explains.
After receiving a $450,000 grant from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, Appleton is looking to use that money to bring in creative professionals, such as artists, musicians, designers, and more. City data shows a decline in population and loss of retail businesses. So to reverse the trend, paying creative workers to bring their talents and practices here could help.
We've certainly received a lot of feedback from local creatives who would love to see the state investing directly in them. Unfortunately, at this point, that state funding does not exist. So we are excited to use these particular funds to help support the local creative economy.
Maureen Regali tells me Wisconsin ranks 48th in state arts funding.
We are working on kind of a longer term plan of how we can help support creatives in Wisconsin using the limited funding that we have available.
In the next 18 months, 20 creative professionals will be chosen through an application process and be given $2,500 to move to Appleton. The initiative is to help artists build businesses with training and financial incentives so their studio or practice becomes a storefront.
I think this is a huge draw for a lot of the creatives, is they will be eligible to participate in the Generator Art Creative Accelerator that we run, which is a 7-week kind of boot camp where we focus on how to strengthen the business side of creatives practice.
They will also be given $10,000 to invest in their business. Reporting in Appleton, Taylor Zebel, Action 2 News.